かんない。それで、In 1905, psychologists Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon designed a test for children who were struggling in school, which required individualized attention. The method formed the basis of the IQ test. Beginning in the 1990s, researchers hypothesized that cognitive ability like above reasoning, working memory, and visual spatial skill reflected an underlying general intelligence, or G factor. Simon Binet designed a battery of tests to measure each of these abilities and combine the results in a single score. Question of just each age group in child score reflected relative at the age, dividing someone's score by their age and multiplying by 100 yielded intelligence quotient, or IQ. Today, a score of 100 represented the average of a sample population, with 68% of population scoring 100. Simon Binet thought the skills tested as the intelligence, but both damaged and now. There is no single agreed upon definition of general intelligence that left users with preconceived assumptions about intelligence. What the started with identified those who needed academic help became used to serve people in another way, often in service deeply flawed ideologies. One of the first large-scale implementation occurred in the United States during World War I, when the military used the IQ test to sort recruits and screen them for officer training. At that time, many people believed in eugenics, the idea that desirable and undesirable genetic traits could and should be controlled in humans through the selective breeding. There are many programs with this line of thinking. To make it without taking into account many of the recruits tested immigrants in the United States who lacked formal education in English language exposure. They created an erroneous intelligence hierarchy of ethnic groups. The intersection of eugenics and IQ testing influenced not only science, but policy as well. In 1924, the state of Virginia created policy allowing the forced sterilization are people with low IQ score. The United States Supreme Court upheld in Nazi Germany the government authorized murder based on low IQ. Following the Holocaust and civil rights movement, both moral and scientists began environmental impact on IQ. For example, as IQ test periodically recalibrated over the 20th century, new generation scored consistently higher on all tests than its previous generation. This phenomenon, known as the Flynn effect, happened more too fast because the inherited evolution. Instead, the cause was likely environmental, improved education, better healthcare, and better nutrition. In the mid-20th century, psychologists also attempted to use IQ tests to evaluate things other than general intelligence, particularly depression and other psychiatric conditions. These diagnoses relied in part on clinical judgment of evaluators used to determine IQ. A practice later researchers found does not yield clinically useful information. Today, IQ tests employ many similar discernment and types of questions as the early tests, though better technique for identifying potential bias. They are no longer used to diagnose psychiatric conditions, but similarly programmatic using test score is still sometimes used learning disabilities. Against the advice of many experts, psychologists around the world still use IQ tests identify intellectual disabilities, and the results can be used to determine appropriate educational support, job training, assisted living. IQ test results have been used to justify the horrific policy and scientifically based ideologies. That doesn't mean test itself is worthless. In fact, it does a good job at measuring reasoning and problem-solving skill is too, but that isn't the same thing as measuring person potential. Though there are many complicated scientific cultural issues that IQ testing, more and more researchers agree on this point. Individuals can be categorized single numerical score. Speaking of questionable testing practice, should we get rid of standards altogether? Find out what these tests actually measure with this video. For learn more infamous and optimist use workshop test is this video. Imagine you're watching randomly read, wearing down. they sacrifice one person to save five? This is a true problem. A version of an escal drama that first was very fulfilled, devised in 1967. It's popular because it forces to think, how to choose, and there's no good choice. Outcome was stick to moral code, prohibit causing someone's death. In one survey, about 90% of respondents said that it said 5. And other studies, including a virtual reality simulation of the drama, have found similar results. These judgments are consistent with philosophical principles of utilitarianism, which argues that morally correct decision is the one maximizes as well the greatest number of people. The 5 lives were outweighed one, even if achieving that outcome requires condemning someone to death. But people don't always take the utilitarian view. Changing trolley problem a bit. This time you are standing on a bridge over the track as the runaway trolley approaches. Now there's no second track, but there is a bird. His body will stop trolley, saving the 5 workers, but he'll die. To utilitarian, lose 1 life to save 5. But in this case, only about 2 people say that it's okay through the man. Our instinct tells us that deliberately causing someone's death is different than learn to die as collateral damage. It just feels wrong for reasons that explain. This intersection between ethics and psychology is interesting about the trolley problem. The drama deliberation reveals that what we think, other than large variance of losing count. Example, men and more likely even women to say it's okay, push the man over the bridge. So are people who watch a comedy clip before the thought experiment. And in virtual reality study, people were more willing to sacrifice men than women. Researchers studied brain activity of people thinking through the classic and bridge versions. Both scenarios activate various brain involved in conscious decision making, emotional response. But in the bridge version, the emotional response is much stronger. So it's activity in the area of the brain associated with processing internal conflict. Why the difference? One explanation: pushing someone to is more personal, activating emotional to killing the person. But we feel conflicted because we see the logical choice. Trolley allergies have been criticized by some philosophers and psychologists. They argue it doesn't reveal anything because it promises a so unrealistic that study participants don't take it seriously, but making this escal analysis more important than ever. For example, drivers may have to handle choices like causing small accidents. Meanwhile, we have to decide in advance.
エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to decide in advance. エスカ We have to
How to value human in charge the greater good. To study autonomous systems, a cooperating philosophy to address the complex problem of programming ethics into machine. Each code shows hypostatic dramas. Two, three, or four, where one means 5, 6, where 2 means. Let's try more. Here player 1 means, and here is player 2. So who do you want to be? At first glance, it may seem like player 1 has the advantage since the full number is the highest, but actually, player 2 has one approximately 6% chance of each match. One way that is a combination you can get by rolling 2 dice, and then each player wins. Do that. notified events like death row and are called random, even though you can't calculate the theoretical probability of each. You might not get expected result if you examine just a few events. The randomness many times a specific outcome, like a player to win. Theoretical probabilities. Each outcome. So if you set playing that forever, player would eventually win 60% of the game, would win 44%, but then the banner will be long gone. In 1905, psychologist Alfred Binet and Mah-Jong designed tests for children who were struggling in school in France, designed to determine which children required individualized attention. The method formed basis IQ tests. Beginning mid-19th century, researchers hypothesized finding ability like a verbal reasoning, lacking memory, and visual spatial skill reflected underlying general intelligence, or G factor. Designed a battery of tests to measure these abilities. Single score. By the sum score by their age, multiplying result by 100. A score of 100 represents the average of a sample population, with 68% of population scoring within 15 points. Simon Binet. The test assessed general intelligence. But now, there is no single agreed upon definition of general intelligence, and that left the door open for people to use it in service on their own preconceived intelligence. As the start at the weight identified those who needed academic help quickly became to sort people in another way, often in service of deeply flawed ideologies. The first large-scale implementations occurred in the United States during World War I. The military used IQ tests to recruit and screen them for officer training. At that time, many people believed in eugenics, the idea that desirable and undesirable genetic traits could and should be controlled in humans through the selective breeding. There are many programs with this line of thinking, among them the idea that intelligence is inherited, but also linked to the person's race. And the influence of eugenics. Scientists use the result of military initiative to make certain racial bugs by intellectual superior, without taking into account that recruits tested new immigrants in the United States who lacked formal education or English language skills. They created erroneous intelligence hierarchy of ethnic group. The intersection of the eugenics and the IQ testing influenced not only science but policy as well. In 1924, the State Assembly created policy allowing the whole sterilization of people with low IQ scores, a decision that the United States Supreme Court upheld. In Nazi Germany, the government authorized the murder of children based on low IQ. Following the Holocaust, in the civil rights movement, the discriminatory IQ tests were challenged on both moral and scientific grounds. Scientists began to gather evidence of environmental impact on IQ. Example, as IQ tests periodically recalibrate over the 20th century, each generation scored consistently higher on our test than each previous generation. This phenomenon, known as the Flynn effect, happened to because inherited evolutionary training. Instead, the cause was like environmental, improved education, better healthcare, and better nutrition. In the mid-20th century, psychologists also attempted to use IQ tests to evaluate symptoms, particularly depression, other psychiatric conditions. These diagnoses relied in part on the evaluate and is the subset of the test used to determine IQ. Approximately does not yield clinically useful information. Today, IQ tests employ many similar design elements and types of questions as the art test. So, the for identify are no longer used to diagnose psychiatric conditions, but similar practice using subtests is still sometimes used to diagnose learning disabilities against their advice. That can be used to determine appropriate educational support, job training, or measuring reasoning. Historical, scientific, and cultural issues wrapped up IQ testing. More and more researchers agree on this point and reject the notion individuals can be categorized by a single numerous score. Speaking of questionable testing practice, should we get rid of standards testing altogether? Find out what these tests actually measure with this video, or learn more about infamous Optimus use Rorschach test with this video. run down the street toward 5 workers who can't escape. It happens to switch the diver trolley onto the second track. Here's the problem: that track has a worker on too, but just one. What do? Do you sacrifice one person to save 5? This a version of aspect drama was the very perfect debate in 1967. It's probably because it was no good choices. Do we pick action as outcome or stick more causing someone's death? In one survey, about 90% of respondents said that it's okay to survive. And other studies, including a virtual reality simulation of the drama, have found similar results. These judgments are consistent with philosophical principles of utilitarianism, which argue that the most correct decision to maximize the well-being people. 5 lives outweigh 1, even people don't always This time, you're standing on a bridge over the track as the runaway trolley approaches. Now there's a second track, but there is a very large man on the bridge next to you. If you push him over, his body will stop the trolley, saving the 5 workers, but he'll die. The utilitarian decision is exactly the same. Lose 1 life to save 5. But in this case, only about 10% of people say it's okay to throw the man onto the track. Our instinct tells us deliberately causing someone's death. The ruin to die of collateral damage. It just feels wrong, for reasons hard to explain. This intersection between ethics and psychology is interesting, a trolley problem. The drama is many variations, reveal what we think in right or wrong. For example, men are more likely to put the man over the bridge. So are people who watch comedy club before doing a thought experiment, and more willing to sacrifice men than women. Researchers have studied brain activities of people thinking through the classic. Both scenarios activate areas involved in conscious decision making and emotional response. But in the bridge version, the emotional response is much stronger. So its activity in the area of the brain associated with internal conflict. What is the difference? One explanation is that pushing someone to the death feels more personal, activating emotion to killing another person. But we feel conflicted. It's their logical choice. Trolley allergies has been criticized by some philosophers and psychologists. They argue that it doesn't anything because its premise is so unrealistic that study participants don't take it seriously. But new technologies is making this kind of ethical analysis. Driver may have to handle choices small accidents to prevent larger ones. Meanwhile, researching autonomous beyond casualties that high-value target. If we want this action to be ethical, we have to decide in advance how to value human life and judge the greater good. So researchers who study autonomous systems are collaborating philosophy to address the complex problem of program ethics into machine, which goes to show that even hypothetical dilemmas can wind up on collision course with the real world. In 1905, psychologist Alfred Binet and designed tests for strong schools and funds designed to determine which children required individualized attention. The method formed the basis of the IQ test. Beginning in the 19th century, researchers hypothesized that cognitive abilities like verbal listening, working memory, and visual spatial skills reflected underlying general intelligence, or G factor. Simon Bernard designed a battery of tests to measure each of these abilities and combine the results into a single score. Questioned just each age of group and child reflected how they perform relative to their age, dividing someone's score by their age and multiplying results by 100 yielded intelligence quotient, or IQ. Today, a score of 100 represents the average of sample population with 68% population score within 100. Simon Binet set the scale that assess general intelligence, but now there's no single agreed-upon definition of general intelligence, and that the left of people to use tests in service preconceived assumptions about intelligence. Republican is to sort people in other ways, often in search deeply for ideology. One of the first large-scale implementation occurred in the United States during World War I, and the military used the IQ test to recruit, screen them of the training. At that time, many people believed in eugenics, yet desirable and undesirable genetic traits could and should be controlled in humans. Intelligence not only fixed and hard, but also made to The influence of eugenics. Scientists use of the military instincts to make erroneous claims that certain racial groups were intellectually superior to others, without taking into account that many of the recruits tested were new immigrants to the United States who lacked full education or English language exposure. They created an erroneous hierarchy of ethnic intersexual eugenics and IQ testing influenced not only science but policy as well. In 1924, the state of Virginia created policy allowing for the first sterilization of people with low IQ score. The United States Supreme Court upheld. In Nazi Germany, the government authorized the murder of children based on low IQ. Following the Holocaust and the civil rights movement, the discriminatory used the low IQ test with challenge on both moral and scientific grounds. Scientists began to gather evidence of environmental impact on IQ. For example, as IQ tests were periodically calibrated over the 20th century, new generations is consistently higher on all tests than each previous generation. This phenomenon is known as the Flynn effect, called inherited evolutionary training. Instead, the cause was likely environmental, improved education, better healthcare, and better nutrition. In the mid-20th century, psychologists also attempted to use IQ tests to evaluate things such as general intelligence, particularly depression and other psychiatric conditions. These diagnoses relied in part on evaluate and is a subset of the test used to determine IQ. Approximately research found does not yield clinically useful information. Today, IQ tests employ more similar design elements and types of questions. Our tests develop better techniques for identifying potential bias in tests. They are no longer used to diagnose psychiatric conditions, but similarly program practice using subtest scores is still sometimes used to diagnose learning disabilities. Against the advice of many experts, psychologists around the world still use IQ tests to identify intellectual disabilities, and the results can be used to determine appropriate educational support, job training, and assisted living. IQ test results have been used to justify horrific policy and scientifically baseless ideologies. That doesn't mean test itself is worthless. In fact, it does a good job at measuring reasoning and problem-solving skill as some ought to, but isn't the same thing as measuring a person's potential. Though there are many complicated political, historical, scientific, and cultural issues of IQ testing, more and more researchers agree on this point and reject the notion individuals can be categorized by a single numerical score. Speaking of questionable testing practice, should we get rid of standards altogether? Find what these tests actually measure with this video, or learn more about the information optimists use workshop test is this video. but all the accused of misusing that power. More and more has left office as a result. Does Richard Nixon deserve to remember for more than scandals that ended his presidency? Find out as we put this disgraced president's legacy on trial. In history, with Richard Nixon. Order now, the full defense today. Some kind of clock? No, Your Honor. This is General House Nixon, the 37th President of the United States, who served from 1969 to 1974. Hold on. As we are number of years for President to serve, why you see President Nixon resign because of the nation is present. He resigned because he was about to be impeached for extent of his crime exposed. What was with these crimes, Your Honor? In history, Nixon's man broke into two wiretap offices, dig up that an opponent for the election campaign. It was established that did not utter this burglary. Covered up while lying about it for months. Yeah, but it was for the good of the country. He did so much during time in office without the scandal, jeopardizing his accomplishment. Accomplishment? Yes, Your Honor. Did you know it was President Nixon who proposed the creation of Environmental Credit and signed National Environmental Policy Act into law, not to mention endangered species, marine mammal protection. Progressive? Hardly. Yes, bordered through fears and resentment of the civil rights movement. Gender-based discrimination in education and desegregation of school occurred peacefully. In here, report, he didn't have much concern for students after 4 were shot by the National Guard at Kent State. Instead, he called the band and protested the Vietnam War, a war he had campaigned on ending, but he did end it. He ended it 2 years after taking office. Previous presidential peace talk, urging the South Vietnamese government to hold out Vietnam, which I might add didn't materialize. So he protested for 4 years, in which 20,000 more U.S. troops and 1 million more Vietnamese died for nothing. A presidential candidate interfering for. Isn't that treason? It is, Your Honor. A clear violation of the Logan Act of 1799. I think we have forget President Nixon's many foreign policy achievements. He was numerous ties with China, forging economic ties continue today. Are we so sure that's good thing? And don't forget the support of coup in Chile that replaced democratically elected Allende. with the brutal military dictator. It was a part of the fight against the tyranny and Baron opposed communism to begin with, or was just fear of the lower class. President Nixon could never predict the violence of Pinochet's regime, and being anti-communist didn't mean neglecting the poor. He proposed guaranteed basic income for all American families, still a radical concept today, and he even comprehensive healthcare reform. Just a kind of past 4 years later. I'm still confused about this burger business. As he croaked on Your Honor, President Nixon may have violated a law or two, but what the real harm compared to all he accomplished while in office? The harm was democracy itself. The whole point of ideology claim to promote God is that leaders are accountable people, and they hold themselves above the law, whatever reason. Those ideas undermined, and if we don't hold accountable to the law, or be out of job. Many politicians have compromised with some principles to achieve results, but law-breaking and cover-ups threaten the very fabric the nation is built on. Those who do so may find that they are entirely tainted, and history is put on trial. Runaway trolley, yelling down tracks, straight toward 5 workers who can't escape. You happen to stand next to such a diver trolley on the second track. As a problem, that track has a worker on too, but just one. What do you do? Do you sacrifice one person to save 5? This is a trolley problem, a version of an escape drama that Truth People had devised in 1967. It's popular because it was asked to think about how to choose when there are good choices. They picked outcome or stick to a moral code, prohibit causing someone death. In one survey, about 90% of respondents said it's okay to letting one worker die to save 5. Another study, including a virtual reality simulation of the drama, have found similar results. These judgments are consistent philosophical principles, utilitarianism, which argues the cross decision maximizes as the being of the greatest number of people. The 5 lives outweigh, even if achieving that required condemning someone to death. But people don't always take utility in it. I gently proven a bit. This time, I will throw approach. collateral damage. Just build one. For example, my life to say it occupies the of the bridge. So of people who watch a comedy club before the doing thought experiment, and one virtual reality study, people were willing to sacrifice men to women. Researchers have studied brain activity of people thinking through the classic and bridge version. Both scenarios activate involving conscious decision-making and emotional response. But in the bridge version, the emotional response so its activity in that area of brain associated with processing internal conflict. Why the difference? One explanation is putting someone to the feels more personal, activating emotional aversion to killing another person. But we feel conflicted because we know it's still a choice. Story allergies has been criticized by some fruit sales and psychologists. They argue that anything realistic that study participants they don't take it seriously, but new technology is making this kind of ethical analysis more important than ever. For example, the driver of this car may have to handle choices like causing small accidents to prevent a roadblock. Meanwhile, the government researching autonomous military drones. The decision casualties to attack high-value targets. If we want this action to escalate, we have to decide in advance how to value human life and judge the greater good. The researchers who study autonomous systems are collaborating philosophies to address the complex problem of programming ethics into a machine. Each goes shows hypothetical dramas can wind up in the collision course in the real world. In 1905, psychologist Alfred Simon designed a test for children who were struggling in school in France, designed to determine which children required individualized attention. The method formed the basis of the IQ test. Beginning in the late 19th century, research hypothesized that cognitive abilities like above reasoning, working memory, and visual spatial skill reflected an underlying general intelligence, or G factor. Simon Bernard designed a algorithm to measure each of these abilities and combine the result in a single score. Questions are adjusted for each child score reflecting how they perform relative to their age, dividing someone's score by their age and multiplying it by 100 yielded the intelligence quotient, or IQ. Today, a score 100 represents the average of sample population, with 68% of the population scoring is 100. It's non-binary, so the skill test assess general intelligence. Then agreed upon definitions. Of their own preconceived assumptions about intelligence. Was studied as a way to identify those who needed academic help or came to use suit people in another way, often in service ideologies. One of the first large-scale implementation occurred in the United States during World War I, using IQ tests to sort recruit officer training. At that time, many people believed eugenics, the idea that desirable and undesirable genetic traits could and should be controlled in humans through the selective breeding. There were many problems with this line of thinking. Mah-Jong is not only fixed, inherited, but also linked to a person's race. Under the influence of eugenics, scientists resolved an initiative to make erroneous claims without taking into account that many recruits tested were new immigrants in the United States who lacked full education or English language exposure. They created erroneous intelligence hierarchy and ethnic groups. The intersection of eugenics and IQ testing influenced not only science but policy as well. In 1924, the state of Virginia created policy allowing for the first sterilization of people low IQ score, a decision the United States Supreme Court upheld. In Nazi Germany, the government authorized the murder of children based on low IQ. Following the Holocaust and the Civil Rights Movement, but discriminatory of IQ tests were challenged on both moral and scientific grounds. Scientists began to gather evidence of environmental impact on IQ. For example, as IQ tests appeared heavily recalibrated over the 20th century, new generations scored consistently higher on all tests than each previous generation. This phenomenon, known as the Flynn effect, happened much too fast because inherited evolutionary trait. Instead, the cause was environmental, improved education, better healthcare, and better nutrition. In the mid-20th century, psychologists also attempted to use IQ tests to evaluate things as general intelligence, particularly this diagnosis relied in part on clinical judgment of the evaluate and used subset of the test to determine IQ. Approach reader does not yield clinical use information. Today, IQ tests employ many similar designs and types of elements. Another problem learning disability. Against the advice experts. Psychologists around the world still use IQ tests to identify intellectual disabilities. It can be used to determine appropriate education, job training, and assist living. IQ test results have been used to justify horrific policy and scientifically baseless ideologies. That doesn't mean test itself worthless. In fact, does a good job of measuring reasoning and problem-solving skill. That is the same thing as measuring a person's potential. Though there are complicated political, historical, scientific, and cultural issues, IQ testing. More and more researchers agree on this point, rejecting notion individuals can be categorized by a single numeric score. Speaking of questionable testing practice, should we get rid of standard testing altogether? Find out what this test actually measures in this video, or learn more about infamous optimistic workshop test is this video. One, two, three, or four. Player 1 win. If the biggest number is 5 or 6, player 2 win. Let's try 2 once more. Here, player 1 wins. And here, it's player 2. So who do you wanna be? At first glance, it may seem player 1 has the advantage since she wins if anyone full number. But actually player 2 has an approximately 55 chance of winning each match. As a possible combination you can get by rolling 2 dice and each player win. It's 7 charge. Possible combinations only roll both dice. If you roll 4 and 5, a 3 and 1 gives player 1 a victory here. There are 36 possible combinations. Each exactly the same chance happening. Mathematicians call this equal probability. Now we can see what's wrong. If we don't want winning number only has 2, the chance of each number being raised is not the same. There is only 1 in 36 will be the highest number. 11 will be the highest. So if any of these combinations are fail, this combination law, player 2 will win. Out of the 36 possible combinations, 16 gives victory to 1 and 20. Player 1 can win if both dice shows 1, 2, 3, or 4. A 5 or 6 would mean 15 out of 36. Customer has made the chance and free 36 out of 916 out of 36 or 20. Or even 20 of them. That's why the events like dice rolling are called random. Even though you can calculate the theoretical probability of each outcome, you might not get it. Hypothetical upload theoretical probabilities by writing down all the possibilities and counting after each outcome. So if you sit under this island forever, the player 2 eventually win 56% of the game, and player 1 will win the 44%. But then, of course, banana will long gone. And that one day you are summoned before the government pony, even though you haven't committed any crime or been formally charged with one. You are repeatedly questioned about your political views, accused of disloyalty, and asked to incriminate your friends and associates. If you don't cooperate, you risk jail or losing your job. This is exactly what happened in the United States in the 1950s as a part of the campaign to expose suspected communists, named after its most notorious practitioner. The phenomenon known as McCarthyism destroyed thousands of lives and careers. For over a decade, American political leaders trampled democratic freedom in the name of protecting them. During the 1930s and 1940s, there had been active but small communist party in the United States. Its record was mixed. There were crucial roles in wider progressive struggle civil rights. It also supported from the start the American Communist Party, conservative business leaders, as well as from liberal who criticized its tactics of racial segregation. During World War II, USSR were allied against Hitler. Some American communists actually spied for the Russians. When the Cold War escalated and this espionage became known, domestic communism came to be seen as a threat to the national security. But the attempt to eliminate the threat soon turned into the longest-lasting and most widespread episode of political repression in American history. Spurred on the network bureaucrats, politicians, journalists, and businessmen, the campaign widely exaggerated the danger of communist subversion. The people behind the harassed anyone suspected of holding the left of set political views or associating with who did. If you hung a modern art on your walls, had a multiracial social circus, or sign petitions against nuclear weapons. You might just communists. Starting in the late 1940s, FBI J. Hoover used the resources of his agency to hunt down such supposed communists and eliminate their influence within American society. And the narrow criteria that Hoover and his allies used to screen federal employees spread to the rest of the country. Soon after, universities, car manufacturers, and thousands of other public imposing same political tests on the men and women who work for them. Meanwhile, Congress conducted witch hunt, subpoena and testified before investigative bodies at the House Un-American Activities Committee. If they refused to cooperate, they could be jailed for contempt, or commonly fired and blacklisted. Ambitious politicians like Richard Nixon and Joseph McCarthy used such hearings as a political weapon, accusing Democrats of being communism, deliberately losing China to the communist bloc. McCarthy, a Republican senator from Wisconsin, became notorious by flaunting ever-changing lists of alleged communists within the State Department. Acted on by other politicians, he continued to make outrageous accusations with disturbing or fabricating evidence. Many citizens reviled McCarthy, though others praised him. And when the Korean War broke out, McCarthy was vindicated. Once he became chair of the Senate Permanent Subcommittee in 1953, recklessness increased. It was his investigation of the army that finally turned public opinion against him.